Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and today I'm going to be doing a versus video between the Why Not 0.4 and the Why Not 0.3. Of course, these are Russell Westbrook's signature shoes, and they're both going or retailed for the same price, 130 bucks. But of course, the Why Not 0.3 is an older shoe, so you can find this shoe on sale if you guys would like. And if you guys want to cop, I'll leave a link in the description box. But let's get it started off with the tracciones, right? So the 0.3 had terrible traction at first. You had to break it in. You had to give it a couple of days to break in, but once you did that, it had a very good bite. Also super silent at first, but then once you started to break it in, it started to squeak a little bit more. The Why Not 0.4 is pretty much good to go right out the box. It has a very hard stop, has a loud squeak as well, or I guess just trying it from my wood floors. The Why Not 0.4 though was a little bit inconsistent when I was playing with it outdoors, and when I was doing a hard lateral movement, it would slide out just a little bit occasionally, actually, not pretty often. So just watch out for that. The 0.3, I really had no issues with that when I was playing on indoor court. I also played with it on the outdoor court as well, just a little bit, and I have like a good amount of colorways. But yeah, don't play with either of these shoes on the outdoor surface at all. The 0.4 is terrible. I would say the 0.3 is even worse than the 4, so durability is pretty bad in both of the shoes. Overall, I mean, okay, so it all depends on what you like. Like if you want a harder bite, I would say the Why Not 0.4 is a little bit better, but a little bit more inconsistent on the harder stops. The Why Not 0.4 I would say is more consistent. You don't really get like those slips that much, but then like it doesn't bite as hard as the 0.4. So depending on what you like, you know, there's the traction, right? All right, as far as the heel to toe transition goes, they're both pretty damn nice. You know, we have a super curved shape here in the heel, which I absolutely love. The heel compression isn't that nice. There's a little bit, you know, I wish it was a little bit softer, but you know, there's that. And then here in the forefoot, we have a nice curved shape as well. And here in the forefoot, we got a good amount of forefoot flex. I would say the 0.4 flex is a little bit easier because, you know, there is a smaller zoom in the 4. The Why Not 0.3 has, it is articulated, but it still feels a little bit harder to flex here in the forefoot. So, but other than that, I mean, that's just a little minor thing. You know, I'm nitpicking at this point. But to be honest, they both feel pretty damn smooth when you're running down the court. As far as the cushioning setup goes, so they're pretty much the exact same as far as the foam goes. So here in the heel, it's not that nice. You know, there's just a little bit of compression, and I would say it's like nicer than most of Nike's Phylon midsoles, you know, which those are terrible. But these are just average. You know, they offer okay impact protection. Like when you do a heel strike, a hard heel strike actually, it kind of hurts your heel. So it's pretty much tied up for the heel in both of the shoes. Here in the forefoot though is a little bit different, right? So in the Why Not 0.3, as you guys can see, it pretty much covers the entire forefoot, and that feels very nice. But then here in the Why Not 0.4, you have it where it's double stacked. The zoom is double stacked. It is a smaller surface area, but you can feel the bounce and the zoom a lot easier, and it feels a good amount more bouncy than the Why Not 0.3 for me. So it all depends on what you want. You know, if you want a zoom unit where you feel it pretty much in the entire forefoot, but not as much as a 0.4, then go with the Why Not 0.3. If you want a bouncier zoom unit, but then like it's pretty much in this area, obviously, then go with the Why Not 0.4. To be honest, for me, I would say I like the zoom unit in the 0.4 a little bit better, even though the 0.3, I don't know, sometimes I like feeling this top one, you know, like kind of like where my big toe is a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that feels kind of nice sometimes, but I do like the bouncier feeling of the Why Not 0.4 zoom unit. As far as the court feel goes, they're both not the greatest, but you know, they're not terrible, so just tie it up there. And pretty much the only differentiating factor in both of these shoes is the zoom unit, so just pick and choose which one you would like better. All right, moving on to the materials. They're both pretty bad as far as quality goes. I guess 130 bucks isn't like premium like pricing, but you know, I wish it had better materials, you know, especially here in the 0.4. Like, are you serious? The materials on this shoe feel like it should be from like $100 shoe, maybe even like a $90 shoe, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like they should up the quality, definitely, but on foot they both feel good, right? So they both have a different feeling. So here in the 0.4, they're using synthetic materials like I mentioned, but it's super duper thin and it feels great on foot. It's a very minimal feeling upper. Here in the Why Not 0.3, we got some foam back mesh, and it's also thin, but then there's a little bit more stuff, like as far as, you know, the panels go. We have this like midfoot strap, and it feels a little bit like cozier. You know, the 0.4 feels just straight up thin and like comfortable because it conforms your foot, but then the Why Not 0.3 just feels a little bit like cozier and a little bit thicker. So it all depends on what you want. And as far as the tongue goes, the tongue in the Why Not 0.4 is a little bit more padded, so that feels a little bit nicer. And then here in the ankle area, we actually have a little bit more padding here in the 0.4. That's pretty interesting. Here in the 0.3, there's actually not a lot of padding. There's actually no padding. There's just this Achilles pad that kind of like wraps around the entire heel. So yeah, it's kind of weird, right? So the 0.3 has cozier materials, but then the Why Not 0.4 has a cozier tongue and cozier ankle area. So it's a little bit different there. To be honest, for me personally, I feel like I like the 0.4 better because here in the forefoot, I like to have a very thin material, and then here in the tongue and the ankle area, I like to have a good amount of padding, as opposed to the Why Not 0.3, where the overall material feels kind of cozy, and then here in the ankle area and the tongue, it's a little bit thinner, you know, but obviously it's all preference at this point. All right, moving on to the fit, they pretty much fit the same. Go true to size for both of the shoes. Here in the toe box, they're pretty snug. I would say the 0.4 feels a little bit more snug than the 0.3. And also the 0.3 kind of stretches out a little bit more because it is this foam back mesh. And then width-wise, I would say they're around normal to maybe just a touch narrow. So pretty much I would tie up the fit. They're both easy to put on as well. You know, you have a very high heel tab in both of the shoes, pretty much the same height. And then the tongue opens up a lot. So they're both easy shoes to put on. All right, moving on to support and lockdown. For lateral containment, they were both really good. You know, here in the 0.3, you got this strap with this plastic. We also have this synthetic material here in the forefoot and the foam coming up a little bit. And also a lot here in the heel. And you have an internal TPU heel counter. Same thing with the 0.4. So for lateral containment, both of these shoes, my foot was locked in. One thing though I like about the Why Not 0.3 better than the 0.4 is this midfoot strap. You know, as you guys know, I usually don't like straps in my shoes, but then they did the strap here in the Why Not 0.3 really well. And this improves the lockdown here in the midfoot a lot. And you can really crank that down and get a very nice secure fit. I mean, of course, the Why Not 0.4, I didn't really have any issues with lockdown, but it just feels a little bit nicer with this strap here in the midfoot. So that's a little bit of a plus for the 0.3. As far as the lateral stability goes, let's see which shoe is wider. They're around the same actually, I would say, right? The 0.3 maybe might be a little bit wider, but I would call that negligible. So as far as the lateral stability, I mean, the Westbrook line really hasn't had the best lateral stability. So as I mentioned, the court feel isn't the best. So you're kind of high up off the ground. It's not terrible, but you're not as low as like the Curry 8s, you know? And it's not that wide. So if you compare the actual width, right? Look at that. Look at that. Look at how much wider the Curry 8 is as opposed to the Why Not 0.3. So you get an extra, I guess like a centimeter or two of width, and that just helps keep you stable. And that's not what the 0.3 and the 0.4 have. So I would tie it up. You know, they're not the most stable. I mean, I never really had any huge issues. I just didn't feel as stable as like the Curry 8 or some of the other shoes that I've been playing that actually have outriggers. So just watch out for that. The lateral stability isn't the best in both of the shoes. All right, as far as the weight goes, I feel like the Why Not 0.4 is going to be lighter. Yes, so 11.82 ounces. And then for the 3, it's probably like 12 point something. 12.24, so like 0.4, 0.5 ounces lighter for the Why Not 0.4. And it definitely feels a little bit lighter, you know, and a little bit more minimal. So like I keep mentioning, the material is just super thin here in the 4. The 3, the materials and like this midfoot strap and also like this double layered thing in the ankle area, which I really don't like what they did there, especially in the 0.2. But here in the 0.3, it's a little bit better, but still not the best. Just made the Why Not 0.3 a little bit like bulkier feeling than the 0.4. So if you want the overall more minimal and lighter feeling shoe, go with the 0.4. All right, as far as the ventilation goes, both of these shoes are kind of on the hotter side. I would say the 0.3 is a little bit better though. Right, so if you see here in the toe box, you know, you got some foam back mesh and it does let in a little bit more air than the Why Not 0.4. So the 0.3 is a little bit better, but still kind of like on the warmer side of things. The 0.4 is just, it's hot. So just watch out for that. All right, moving on to the aesthetics, I would say I like the 0.3 better actually, which is interesting. You know, the 0.4 is not the best aesthetically in my opinion. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, okay, so this is a toss-up. You know, they both feel very, very similar, right? And there are just a few things that are different, right? So a few things that I feel like the 0.3 does better. So I like this midfoot strap, and also like, I guess the cozier, like slightly cozier materials. And that's about it, right? And then the 0.4, I guess it does have the bouncier zoom unit, thinner materials, it is a little bit lighter, and the tongue feels a little bit better on foot as well. But to be honest, I feel like the main thing for me, because the shoes feel very, very similar, is the zoom units. So if you want that bouncier zoom unit, go with the 0.4. If you want that bigger zoom unit, even though like the 0.3, don't get me wrong, it's still bouncy, it's just not as bouncy as the 0.4, but it's just like in a larger surface area, you can feel it in your toes and like your entire forefoot. So if you want that feeling, go with the 0.3. Everything else, like I mentioned, you know, like the 0.4 being like slightly lighter and more minimal, those aren't like huge things. You know, I mean, if that's important to you, then obviously pick whatever shoe you want. But in my opinion, I don't think those are like that important. You know, like the strap, that adds a little bit more lockdown, but like the 0.4 had good lockdown too, you know? So the main thing is the zoom unit. And I feel like you should choose whatever shoe you want with the zoom unit, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, that about wraps up this comparison. Again, if you guys want to cop either of these shoes, I will leave a link in the description box. Oh yeah, I forgot to say which one I like better. To be honest, I would say I like the 0.4 better, you know? I like the overall lighter feeling of the shoe. I like how it's a little bit more minimal. I like the like fluffier tongue. Yeah, I like the zoom unit, like I keep saying. So I'd say I like the 0.4 just a little bit better than the 0.3. But anyways, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.